The familiar scent of my grandmother's antique shop filled my lungs as I walked through the creaking wooden door. 5 years ago, when she left it to me in her will, my family had laughed. A dusty old antique shop? What a waste, my sister Diana had sneered. But I saw what they didn't: potential. I ran my fingers along the polished mahogany counter, remembering those early days. While they thought I was just arranging furniture and dusting shelves, I was building an empire. The small shop had become the headquarters of Walker Acquisitions, though the antique store facade remained. "Ms. Walker." My assistant James appeared from the back office. "The Anderson Holdings paperwork is ready. And your mother called again about dinner tonight." I sighed, checking my watch. "The monthly remind Emily she's a disappointment, dinner. Can't wait." Behind the shop's vintage displays lay my real office, all glass, chrome, and state-of-the-art technology. The antique store was profitable, but it was my cover for the real business, acquiring struggling luxury brands and high-end retail chains. "Your sister's company filed for bankruptcy protection this morning," James reported, handing me the financial reports. "They don't know we've been buying their debt." Diana, the successful one, had risen to CFO of Luxury Retail International, one of the largest luxury goods companies in the country. She never missed a chance to compare her corporate success to my little shop. "Have they announced it publicly?" I asked, reviewing the numbers. "No, they're trying to keep it quiet. But they need a bailout by Friday or everything collapses." I smiled, thinking of tonight's family dinner. Diana would be there, probably wearing another designer outfit she couldn't afford, bragging about her latest business triumph. Meanwhile, her company was crumbling, and she had no idea her unsuccessful sister held their fate in her hands. My phone buzzed. Mom's text: "Don't be late like last time. Diana has big news to share." I changed from my casual shop clothes into a simple but expensive dress. Nothing flashy, nothing that would hint at my true worth. The antique shop's bell chimed as I locked up, a sound that always made me smile. Such a perfect cover. My driver waited discreetly around the corner. No need to arrive at dinner in my actual car. That would raise too many questions. Instead, I took my old Honda, maintaining the illusion of the modest shopkeeper. Mom's house was lit up like Christmas, expensive cars filling the driveway. Diana's red sports car sat prominently in front as usual. I parked on the street. "Emily." Finally, Mom greeted me with her usual mix of disappointment and resignation. "Diana's telling us about her latest promotion." I entered the dining room to find Diana holding court, dressed in head-to-toe designer labels. Dad beamed at her while my younger brother Mark texted under the table, bored as usual. "There you are." Diana's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I was just telling everyone about our company's expansion plans. We're acquiring 3 new luxury brands next month." I took my seat quietly, knowing those acquisitions would never happen. Her company wouldn't exist in its current form by next month. "Still running that tiny shop?" Diana smirked between sips of expensive wine. "You know, we're actually opening a new boutique in that area. Might affect your, what do you call it, foot traffic." "The shop does fine," I replied mildly, checking my phone as it buzzed. A message from James: "Final paperwork ready. Coming over now." "Emily, phone's away," Mom scolded. "Diana's telling us about her new summer home." I texted back quickly: "Perfect timing. Family dinner in progress." Diana was in full flow. "The merger next week will make us the largest luxury retail group in the country. Of course, Emily, this is probably all over your head. How's the antique business? Still selling old furniture?" The doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I said, standing up. "That's for me." "Really, Emily?" Mom frowned. "Who could be visiting you here?" I opened the door to James, impeccable in his suit, holding a leather portfolio. "The papers you requested, Ms. Walker." Diana's voice carried from the dining room. "Probably some dusty old cabinet she's buying." I led James into the dining room, enjoying the confused looks on my family's faces. "Everyone, this is James, my assistant. He has some documents I need to review." "Assistant?" Dad frowned. "For the antique shop?" James placed the portfolio on the table, smoothly moving Diana's wine glass aside. "Ms. Walker, here's the contract to buy their company. Everything's ready for your signature." Dead silence fell over the room. "What company?" Diana asked, her voice suddenly sharp. I opened the portfolio, revealing the familiar Luxury Retail International logo on top of the acquisition papers. Yours, dear sister. Did you really think no one would notice your company was failing? The wine glass slipped from Diana's hand, shattering on the floor. But that was just the beginning. The sound of Diana's shattered wine glass still echoed as James efficiently laid out the acquisition documents across our mother's prized mahogany dining table. This is impossible, Diana stuttered, her perfectly manicured hands trembling as she reached for the papers. Luxury Retail International is worth billions. Was worth billions, I corrected softly. Before you authorized those risky expansions. Before the hidden debt started mounting. Tell me, Diana, does the board know you've been cooking the books for the past year? The color drained from her face. How did you? Your creative accounting might fool the public but not my forensic team. I nodded to James, who produced another folder. We've been tracking every unauthorized loan, every manipulated earnings report. Did you really think nobody would notice $300 million missing from the pension fund? Dad, a retired financial advisor, grabbed the documents with shaking hands. His face went ashen as he read. Diana, tell me this isn't true. Of course it's not true, she shrieked, standing up so suddenly her chair toppled backward. This is some sick joke. Emily runs an antique shop. She sells old furniture. I smiled, removing my simple cardigan to reveal a Valentino blouse underneath. Walker Acquisitions operates out of that old furniture shop. We specialize in luxury brand acquisitions and turnarounds. Currently managing a portfolio worth $4.2 billion. Mom's hand flew to her chest. But all these years. All these years, I continued. While Diana was bragging about her corner office, I was building an empire. While she was buying designer clothes on credit, I was buying controlling interests in the companies that make them. James cleared his throat. Ms. Walker, shall I show them the ownership structure? Please do. I watched as he projected a complex corporate chart onto the dining room wall using a small device. At the top sat Walker Holdings, my parent company, with dozens of luxury brands branching beneath it. See that empty space at the bottom? I pointed. That's where Luxury Retail International will go. Once we clean up Diana's mess. You can't do this. Diana lunged for the papers, but James smoothly intercepted them. I'm the CFO. I have rights. Had rights, I corrected. The board called an emergency meeting this afternoon. They've unanimously accepted our offer. Your termination is effective immediately. Mark, my younger brother, finally looked up from his phone, whistling low. Holy shit, you're actually rich. Language. Mom snapped automatically, then turned to me with dawning horror. All those times we criticized you for working in that shop. Those family vacations you couldn't afford to join. I was in Paris those weeks, I shrugged. Negotiating acquisitions. Dubai the month after. Tokyo in spring. Diana collapsed back into her righted chair, mascara starting to run. The summer house. My contracts. My life. Is built on fraud, I finished. Though I'm willing to keep that quiet for the family's sake. If you cooperate. Dad stood up, his banker's instincts finally kicking in. Emily, surely we can discuss this? As a family. Like you discussed cutting me out of your will 3 years ago? I raised an eyebrow. James, show them the trust ownership papers. Another document appeared on the wall. The family trust's legal structure. My name sat at the top. I bought out your financial advisor 2 years ago, I explained. The trust has been under my management since then. Those amazing returns you've been bragging about at golf. Dad? That was my team's work. Mom started crying softly. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. Or would you have found a way to give Diana credit for that too? The room fell silent except for Diana's muffled sobs. James efficiently gathered the documents, leaving only the final acquisition contract. You have 2 choices, Diana, I said, sliding the contract across the table. Sign this, accept a modest consulting position in our Asian office, and we keep your creative accounting quiet. Or don't sign and I let the SEC handle it. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I'm your sister. I pulled out my phone, showing her the drafted press release about the fraud investigation. Try me. The expensive pen in her hand shook as she signed, tears smearing the signature. Welcome to Walker Holdings, I smiled. Human Resources will contact you about your relocation to Singapore. Singapore. Mom gasped. But what about her life here? Her life here is over, I stated flatly. Unless she prefers prison? Diana's shoulders slumped in defeat. James collected the signed contract and nodded. I'll process this immediately, Ms. Walker. Your car is waiting whenever you're ready. Mom clutched her pearls. Car? That old Honda. On cue through the dining room window, they watched as a Rolls-Royce Ghost pulled up, driver standing at attention. That's more my style, I said, standing up. Though the Honda was a nice touch, don't you think? Really sold the struggling shopkeeper image. The following morning I sat in my real office, the entire top floor of a downtown skyscraper hidden behind the facade of my antique shop. The space was designed to my exact specifications. One wall entirely of smart glass overlooking the city, rare art pieces worth millions decorating the walls, and at the center my grandmother's original antique desk. A reminder of where it all began. James entered with my morning coffee and the latest reports. Diana cleared out her office at Elrai last night. Security footage shows her having quite the emotional moment. I watched the footage on my tablet. Diana screaming at security, throwing her designer handbag, trying to download files that had already been locked. Send her a first-class ticket to Singapore. One way. And make sure her new apartment there is modest. Already done. Your parents have been calling non-stop since 6 a.m. Of course they had. I glanced at my phone. 28 missed calls, 43 messages. Mom, please, we need to talk. We didn't know. Dad, I've reviewed the trust documents. We need to discuss this. Mark, sis, you're trending on Twitter. The shop girl billionaire, they're calling you. The last one made me smile. The press had gotten wind of the acquisition, and the story was too good to resist. The hidden billionaire operating behind an antique shop facade, secretly controlling some of the world's most prestigious luxury brands. Ms. Walker, James interrupted my thoughts. The family is here. All of them. I straightened my Chanel suit. No more need for modest disguises. Send them in. They entered like chastened children. Mom clutching her outdated designer bag. Dad looking diminished without his usual arrogance. Mark actually not on his phone for once. Diana wasn't with them, presumably packing for Singapore. Emily, Mom started, then stopped, taking in the magnificent office. This is incredible. The antique shop, Dad said slowly. It was just a front? Not exactly. I gestured to my grandmother's desk. This is where it started. Grandmother left me more than just a shop. She left me her business instincts. While you were all pushing Diana to climb the corporate ladder, I was building my own empire. But why keep it secret? Mark asked. You could have shut us up years ago. I stood, walking to the window. Remember Diana's college graduation? Mom, you said something I never forgot. Success isn't about what you achieve, it's about who sees you achieve it. Mom flinched. I didn't mean. You did, I cut her off. Everything was about appearance with this family. Diana's fancy title, her expensive clothes, her social media presence. But real power, real success. It doesn't need an audience. James appeared with contracts. The trust restructuring documents you requested, Ms. Walker. Dad stepped forward eagerly. About the trust, surely we can discuss. These documents transfer full control of the family trust to Mark, I announced. They all froze. Mark dropped his phone. Me, he squeaked. But I'm the youngest. I just manage that little tech startup. Which has potential, I nodded. Unlike Diana, you actually built something yourself. No shortcuts, no fraud, just hard work. The trust will give you the capital to expand. Emily, Mom tried again, tears forming. We're so sorry. We never saw. That's the point, Mom. You never saw because you weren't looking. Too busy posting about Diana's fake success to notice real success right in front of you. I pressed a button and the smart glass wall turned into a display showing my company's holdings. Luxury brands, real estate, technology firms, and at the center one small antique shop. Diana's actions nearly destroyed a century-old company, I continued. She'll learn humility in Singapore starting from the bottom. Meanwhile, Mark will get the support he actually deserves. And us? Dad asked quietly. You'll keep your allowance from the trust. Your social standing is safe. My voice turned cold. But you'll never have control over it again. Consider it the price of blind privilege. Mom sank into a chair. All those family events you missed because of shop inventory. Board meetings in Milan. Acquisitions in Paris. Running an empire takes time. I smiled slightly. Though the shop does still do inventory every Sunday. James appeared again. Ms. Walker, the press is waiting in the lobby. They're requesting a statement about the shop girl billionaire. Tell them. I paused, looking at my shocked family. Tell them success isn't about designer labels or corner offices. Sometimes it's about keeping your head down, doing the work and building something real. Even if no one's watching. As security escorted them out, I sat at my grandmother's desk, running my hands over the worn wood. On the wall hung a single photograph. Me at 18 standing proudly in front of the antique shop with my grandmother. You were right, Gran, I whispered. Success isn't what you show people. It's what you build while they're not looking. James entered one final time. Diana's flight to Singapore is confirmed. And the antique shop just sold a Victorian armoire. I smiled. Some things don't need to change. I picked up my phone, turning off the call forwarding that had hidden my real office for years. But some things do. The sun set over the city, casting golden light across my empire. Tomorrow the world would know about the shopgirl billionaire. But tonight I had an antique shop to close up. After all, that's where it all began. And that's where I'd always keep my heart, even if my name was now on 100 corporate towers. Sometimes the biggest power moves aren't the ones you broadcast, they're the ones you keep quiet until exactly the right moment.